This is a product video for the Legacy Alco S-2 switcher engines. These locomotives are available in 2 road numbers each, with Legacy, 1 number in a non-powered dummy unit, and then finally a 4th number as a conventional unit. We have here in front of us the 6-38473 Chesapeake and Ohio S-2 number 5505. There is also a 6-38472 C&O S-2 number 5001 with Legacy. There is a 6-38474 Chesapeake and Ohio conventional model, cab number 5020, and a C&O Alco S-2 non-powered dummy unit, cab number 5027. We also have available the 6-38476 Canadian National S-2 switcher, cab number 7946. The 6-38477 Canadian National Alco S-2 number 7949. In conventional, we have 6-38478 Canadian National Conventional Alco S-2 number 7951, and 38479 the Canadian National Non-Powered Dummy S-2 number 7954. 38480 is a New York Central S-2 with Legacy, cab number 8504. 38481 is New York Central S-2 with Legacy, cab number 8507. 38482 is a New York Central Conventional S-2, number 8514. 38483 is a New York Central Non-Powered Dummy, number 8521. 38484 is a Southern Legacy S-2 switcher, number 2209. 38485 is a Southern Legacy S-2 switcher, number 2211. 38486 is a Southern Conventional S-2, number 2215. 38487 is a Southern Non-Powered Dummy S-2, number 2218. 38488 is a Missouri Pacific Legacy S-2, number 9108. 38489 is a Missouri Pacific Legacy S-2 number 9113. 38490 Mopac Conventional S-2 number 9116, and 38491 is a Missouri Pacific non-powered Alco S-2 number 9131. Out of the box, you have the manual for loading the engine memory module in the cab 2 remote, the instruction manual, 4 replacement traction tires, smoke fluid pipette, smoke fluid funnel, and the engine memory module that is specific to the road name and road number of your locomotive. These Alco S-2s feature a plastic body, a die-cast frame, die-cast trucks, rear and front coil couplers, front and rear directional lights, a fan-driven smoke unit, Legacy control, and Legacy rail sounds. Due to the space constraints on the S-2 switcher, we had to locate the switches on the bottom of the fuel tank. The switches are smoke on-off, Odyssey on-off. In the no ODY position, the speed control is disabled. In the ODY position, it's enabled. And program run switch. Program to assign the engine ID number in command, run to operate the engine in command. In conventional mode, program is used as the engine lockout switch, so the engine will only run in one direction, and run allows you to access all 3 directional states. Let's get our remote programmed before we put our Alco S-2 on the track. We need to tell our remote that the Alco S2 is a legacy engine. So to do this, we're going to load the memory module. Because the cab number is 5005, using our numbering convention of the last 2 digits, since 0 is an invalid number, we'll press Engine 5 on our remote. We'll then take the orange memory module and insert it in the top of the remote with the silver circle L facing up. We'll press the info key. We'll press the load key. It tells us the module is inserted. It's a Chesapeake and Ohio 38473 S2 number 5005. Load engine data. We press yes. It tells us the engine data is loaded and we can remove the module to continue. Just to show you what this has done for us, it's already assigned our name and road number. So we can press the scroll key in the upper left hand corner. It's set our type up to diesel switcher. This is important because the S2 is a switcher. When you program it into a lash up with other road engines, it will come up and warn you that it's going to use a different speed table when being used in the lash up. We press scroll again. It set our control to Lionel Legacy, and scroll again tells us it set us up to Legacy Rail Sounds. Press the info key to exit. You see the cab number displays momentarily. It's scrolling across telling us it's a Chesapeake and Ohio S2. The icons on our touchpad are specific to this locomotive. We have volume up, crew talk, engine RPMs up, volume down. The circle is shut down. When we give a throttle command, it changes to a triangle and will then play an emergency stop sequence. We have RPMs down, tower comm, smoke off, smoke on, engine reset, Rule 17 lighting on, and Rule 17 lighting off. By pressing the speed bar, we have all of our preset railroad speeds, tower comm, smoke off, smoke on, a bar graph that represents the intensity of the RPMs. As we press the up effects key, you can see that bar graph increase, and it says labor increase on the top of the screen. As we press it down, the bar graph goes down. That is in effect a means of increasing the laboring of the locomotive so the engine will work harder and reflect that in the sound system. And finally, in this position, we have number 1, which is roll speed, which will give us the very first speed step the locomotive is capable of achieving. To exit this menu, we press aux 1. Let's get our locomotive lubricated and get it on the track. Before we get this locomotive on the tracks, we want to make sure that we pre-lubricate it. To do this, we're going to use our small needle applicator of oil. And we're going to place a small dab of oil on each axle, right where it goes through the truck block. On the S2, the rear axle is exposed. So we can put a dab of oil on either side of the bearing and between the gear and the truck. We want to do the same for all 4 axles. We can put a dab of oil on the axle that goes through the collector roller. And again, the same thing on this truck. Okay, the gearboxes in this locomotive are lubricated from the factory, and we do suggest that you do not put grease on these gears. The reason for that is that grease being on those gears running around your track is liable to pick up debris that will bind up that gearbox. Then that binding can create other problems down the road and a domino effect, such as stripping gears or burning up the motor driver, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So leave the grease off of these exposed gears. It certainly won't hurt anything at all not having those exposed gears lubricated. As I mentioned, the gearboxes inside the truck are pre-lubricated from the factory. These S2 switchers have a central can motor that go into a gearbox inside the fuel tank, and then drive shafts go out and power the 2 trucks. Alright, let's get this engine on the track and see what she'll do. Now that we have our legacy S2 switcher programmed into our legacy remote as engine 5, we need to make sure that we tell the locomotive that it's going to be addressed as engine 5 from this point forward. So to do this, we're going to need to place the locomotive in program. So it has to come off the track, place the switch in the program position, place it back on the rails, go ahead and apply track power. You'll notice that when you power up the S-2, the only thing that comes on is the marker lights, or I'm sorry, the number board lights on the front hood of the locomotive. The headlight is off, the cab light is off. This is normal. So we're going to go ahead and tell our remote, engine 5, and we're going to press the set button at the bottom of the remote. Locomotive blows the horn to confirm that it's taken the command. You'll notice the front headlight is on, as well as the cab light. We'll go ahead and turn our track power off, remove the locomotive, place our program run switch in the run position, make sure our smoke is in the on position, and our Odyssey on-off switch is in the ODY position. Go ahead and reapply the locomotive to the track. Before we fire it up and run it though, we do want to make sure that we put smoke fluid in the locomotive. So to do this, we're going to use our smoke fluid pipette that came in the box. We're going to put enough smoke fluid in the pipette to where we're roughly 3/4 of the way from the bottom of the pipette to the first line. I'm going to put that right down the stack. Put in the smoke fluid, a couple extra puffs to make sure we don't have a meniscus down there. And now we're ready to run the engine. So turn on our track power. Again, the only thing that comes on at initial power up are the number boards here in the front. Headlight and cab light stay off until you address the locomotive. So we'll go ahead and tell the remote, engine 5. In the lower left hand corner of your cab 2 touchpad is an on-off icon. I'm going to go ahead and hold that icon down so you'll get the startup sequence.
This is the tower. Do you read me? Over. Copy that. Read you loud and clear. Start her up and stand by to pull. Acknowledge. Out.
So now that we've actually addressed the locomotive, the headlight comes on and the cab light is on. I'm going to go ahead and lower the volume off the remote so you can hear me a little bit better and don't have to scream over the engine. The manual volume control for this locomotive is located right behind this front door on the front hood of the locomotive. It's really tricky to get to, and that door is fragile. So if you're running conventionally with a legacy equipped engine, just use a little care when you open that door and turn that volume down manually, and also when you close the door. Okay, give you a shot of the quillable horn, all 3 levels. The bell. This locomotive is equipped with coil couplers, front and rear. Go ahead and fire the couplers, you can hear the sound. Use the F key on my cab 2 and the R key on the cab 2. Go ahead and turn the smoke unit on by pressing aux 1 and the smoke on icon 3 times to get my smoke unit to high. It will take a few seconds for the smoke unit to heat up. This is normal. When your engine's sitting at idle and you turn the smoke unit on, the voltage to the element is typically less than what it is when the locomotive is moving. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the throttle and get the engine moving, see if that'll get any smoke out of the stack. There we go. Got some smoke coming out now. It's not unusual for these units new to take a little while to heat up and start producing smoke. So this is a diesel switcher, which means that the top speed of this locomotive is only half of what the top speed of a road locomotive is. This is important because when you put this switcher locomotive into a multiple unit consist with a road engine, the cab 2 will come up and warn you that, hey, if you're going to use a different lookup table or different speed steps for this S2, is that okay? If it's okay, you press yes and you're good to go. And the locomotive will perform with the top speed of a road locomotive. However, when you go back and address it individually as engine 5, it will revert back to the switcher speed table for all of its speed steps. So I'm going to go ahead and play the crew talk for you.
Yardmaster, got a full tank of fuel. Out.
And the tower comm.
This is the tower. The lead is clear for your move. Over. Copy that. Here we come. Out.
And go ahead and increase the speed a bit more. Go ahead and turn the speed down. You can adjust the RPMs of the locomotive manually by using the RPM up and RPM down icons on the touchpad. This locomotive is equipped with 8 notches or 8 various rev levels, which is the same as the prototype has. Very subtle changes in the engine RPM, but there are increases. Okay, I'll go ahead and play the squealing brakes for you. You know the locomotives come to a complete stop when the cab light pops on. Go ahead and change direction. As you can see, the front headlight turns off and the rear headlight turns on. Run the engine in reverse. Okay, so these Alco S2s are equipped with sequence control. Sequence control is effectively a pre-recorded sequence of sounds that occurs off of the throttle commands. So to access the sequence control, you simply hold down the straight arrow key or the aux1 key on the cab for 3 seconds. You'll get 2 bells and a horn toot to confirm that you're in sequence control mode. So I'm going to go ahead and hold aux1 down now. That signifies I'm in sequence control. I'm going to go ahead and spool up to the first speed step. It's important to note that at the first speed step, the locomotive does not start moving when in sequence mode. You've got to get to speed step 2. As soon as you get to speed step 2, the bell will turn on and stay on until you exceed speed step 23.
We are on the move. Over. Roger that. Yardmaster out.
So as you increase the throttle, you'll get various different sound effects playing. So right now I am just crossing from speed step 23 to 24. My bell turns off. I still have total manual control over everything, such as the horn and the bell, and tower comm and crew talk, RPMs, smoke, etc. But just off the throttle commands alone, I can make this engine do different things. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the throttle and get it running quickly. So now I'm going to hit the speed bar, and I'm going to go ahead and go to a slow speed. And I'm going to get the dialogue that goes with it. So it gives me a couple of horn toots. Gives me a crew talk to confirm that it's reached slow speed. I'm going to go ahead and go up to full speed. Now we're going to go back down to restricted.
Roger that. Yardmaster out. Tower, almost there. Pulling in now. Over.
Okay. As I mentioned before, When the locomotive is underway and you see that triangle icon in the center of your touchpad, that's an emergency stop sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that now so you can hear that dialogue.
Full stop. Come to a complete stop. Engine is all pipe down. We're at a complete stop. Over. Nice job. Tower out. My engine is stopped. Brakes are set. Over. Roger that. Out.
Okay, now that the engine is at idle and it's stopped, I'm going to go ahead and play the shutdown dialogue by hitting the round circle key in the center of my touchpad.
Yard master. Move is done. We're taking our break. Out.
By hitting the shutdown key, it shuts off my smoke unit, my cab light, my headlight, shuts down the sounds, and the engine sits there waiting to take a command, just like it would at power up. That completes this product overview. These engines are in stock now at your dealer and available in a multitude of road names. Again, there's 2 legacy versions, each with different cab numbers, a strictly conventional version, and also a non-powered dummy unit with yet another cab number. So a total of 4 cab numbers per road name, 2 legacy, 1 conventional, and 1 non-powered dummy. Thank you.